Hey,
You know, I know.
hey.
Hey, I know it's not the same music as the Cisco Hold music, but that intro music reminds me of it a lot.
It's got it's in the style of,
Yes.
style of, you know.
Oh, I hope they don't get sued. It could be like a was that Blurred Lines kind of situation.
I mean,
as I've watched bands play the Hold music live.
Really?
So I think we're probably safe. We're probably
Okay,
safe.
that's wild. I don't know if I would want to see that.
It would be, it was like how to trigger an audience, right? You know, like
I would just feel like I was on BlackBerry support again, waiting on hold for the next 40 minutes.
supporting the enterprise server.
Oh yeah, BlackBerry, the Bez.
Yep.
I remember running Bez 3, 4,
we're
5.
just starting off Friday, making people need to drink right away.
Oh, that was a thing. And then iPhones happened, and suddenly it was not really a thing anymore.
I don't know. A lot of orgs held on to those Blackberries as long as they possibly could. You know, it's not the enterprise contracts that did it. It was just fear to change or inability to change. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that's why anyone still uses VMware, but
come on. I haven't used VMware.
Marino's biting his tongue.
It's all good. Right. I haven't used VMware in anger in a solid 5 or 6 years. So I couldn't even tell you what a modern VMware system looks like and what it does differently than it did 6 years ago.
I think for me, it's much like Oracle. It's much like SAP. Nobody comes up with like a brand new org and says, you know what we're going to use? VMware. No one kicks off a brand new project. You know what I want to use? You know what's going to power this? Oracle. Nobody does that, right? It's either legacy orgs or folks with legacy knowledge.
Right. Yes, Chris, in anger.
No one
wasn't always happy.
VMware. I'm sorry.
Wasn't always happy with VMware.
No one has a leisurely jaunt with VMware. You know, it's like it's not a walk in the park.
No, indeed.
I don't know how you normally start the show, by the way. I don't know if this is what we do.
Oh no, we just
this
is it. I mean,
y'all have both worked with me before. You know, my cold opens. I'm just gonna talk.
Yeah,
I love that. You know, I was actually gonna just go live right when we were just chatting about about the Deftones and whatnot. The problem is I forgot that the 30-second counter was there, and I couldn't just get us to go live, and that would have just killed the conversation. But anyways, welcome, Tim. Thank you for coming by and hanging with us today. I just found out that Kat's not here because she's at the beach with her kiddo, so she's hanging out.
That is a great place to be. Yes, no, please go enjoy the beach. If any of us could be at the beach with the kiddos right now, we would not be here talking. Matter of fact, we would record this from the beach.
Ooh. I'm not opposed.
One day we should. I totally agree.
Yeah. Remember how MTV had the spring break version of shows, and they were like at the pool and stuff like that?
Yeah.
We could absolutely do that, you know, just like, you know, spring break. But it wouldn't be like a real spring break pool. It would be like a Lifetime Fitness pool somewhere, you know. Us doing our best.
60% more chlorine than it needs.
Oh, gosh. You know, like it burns your nose like Coke used to back in the day. Like Coca-Cola. Let me be very specific. Like Coca-Cola used to do back in the day. Like if you were born in the 80s, mid 80s especially, you probably don't remember when Coca-Cola was so carbonated that when you opened it, it would burn your nostrils.
Yeah, if you got the can too close, it was like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
We are.
Then they switched to New Coke.
When did they switch to New Coke?
It was the late 80s, I think. I want to say it was late 80s because it had the blue stripe on the can. And let me tell you what. This dominated the news cycles, the switch to New Coke. It was huge. There was uproar. You want to see when the country came together for something, it was New Coke. Everybody, regardless, everywhere you were, hated New Coke so bad that they had to bring back the original Coke and call it Coca-Cola Classic. And it stayed Coca-Cola Classic from like the late 80s, I think, until like the mid 2000 early aughts.
That sounds right. Do you remember when they put stuff in the cans that would like pop up when you open it?
No, I would have.
It was like a promotion thing, and some of them would give you money. Like when you crack the can open, there wasn't actually soda in there. There was like a little thing that would push up a surprise, and it could be like a coupon or a $1 bill.
No, we never got
right inside the can.
Right inside the can.
I'll tell you right now, if I had my mouth set on Coca-Cola, and I got in there was a coupon for another Coca-Cola, I'm gonna be
I'd be so pissed,
so upset.
Yeah, never got one myself, but
I didn't either.
Engineering marvel, if you will.
Yeah, Chris nailed it. Like if I'm ready for a Coke and like it's not there, I'm so salty. I'm so salty.
I'm having like some memories of this now. Like for some reason,
I looked it up. It was called the Magic Can. So if you do a little search for a Magic Can Coca-Cola, you'll find it.
I know they must have had that. They must have had that in the rich neighborhood or something like that. I'm just tell you, dog.
That wasn't my neighborhood, but it's very possible. Speaking of engineering marvels, Tim, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you are too kind. You are too kind. I appreciate it.
What's going on with you? What's good with you?
Oh man, so like I've got one of the major steps in my plan to get out of the tech industry has come to fruition. So I'm recently got my black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu a couple weekends ago. So like now I can open up my own gym at some point in the future, and at some point maybe within the next couple of years, which would be like an and, not an or situation when it comes to tech. But like my quote unquote retirement plan is to just teach jiu-jitsu and like make videos and maybe do talks or whatever. But it has been a lot of work. There's been a lot of actual blood, sweat, and tears. A couple of catastrophic injuries, like facial reconstruction from a nose break. Dislocated ribs, torn hamstrings. And a lot of people probably don't know that you can dislocate ribs, but yes, you can dislocate ribs.
That's news to me. That sounds awful.
It pops out because your ribs are held in by cartilage, right, in the front and in the back. So normally for me, it pops off in the front, like at the sternum, and it's great because when it pops out, right, if it pops out, it hurts, right, and then you got to pop it back in. But if it pops in, it pokes stuff. Yeah, and then you got to like try. Yeah, so that's a lot of fun, especially when it happens like during a match and someone's on top of you and it's like poking against your like liver and great. It's it's not great, but also like when you talk about it now, it actually sounds kind of cool. But no, it hurts. But but it was a lot of work, and I made black belt relatively fast. I made it just under 8 years of training, and that includes several months of the gym being closed for the pandemic. So it probably would have been like, 7.5 years, plus time off for injuries, stuff like that. So pretty fast, but I train a lot, and I'm objectively pretty good at it.
Yeah. Got the receipts.
You got the black belt.
Yeah. So, but no, it's interesting though. Cause like, I've talked about it in different formats, stuff like that, but like, when you jiu-jitsu or really any kind of like, there are certain things or struggles where it can be running, it can be like any kind of exercise where you really get into the kind of like the cave, like will help you like work through things. But it's really different when you like imagine lifting weights when the weight is actually actively trying to not be lifted. Matter of fact, it's trying to lift you back. It's a little bit different. Like, so there's a lot of strategy that goes into jiu-jitsu along with like, physical exercise and things like that. So it becomes it encompasses all of your cycles, and in that way, it's very freeing because I literally can't think about anything else, and I don't want to think about anything else, and I'm not thinking about anything else. But afterwards, like you apply a lot of things strategy. It's like, one thing I talk about a lot when I teach, because I'm a heavy person, but I fight in a division where I'm usually one of the smallest people. Like my past two Pan American championships that I won were against dudes who were, I think, 75 pounds and 90 pounds heavier than me, respectively.
Wow.
And each of them was an actual foot taller than me. So like I'm 5'8", they were 6'8". So when I'm standing on the top step of the podium, their heads are higher than mine. And you approach a fight differently. Your strategy is completely different than when you're fighting someone who has a huge size advantage on you, right? And one of the things I talk about is like, all right, there's this notion of managing distance. Like I either want you close or I want you far. I want to be able to manage that distance, right? If I need you close so I can influence how you move, like as you wait, a lot of folks think that you have to pull somebody close to you, right? I'm not pulling nobody who outweighs me by 100 pounds, right? But I can pull myself closer to them. And then now I can do the thing I need to do, right? And so like the way that people approach problems, they really kind of go, like a lot of folks are just, they get tunnel vision. They're going to go straight for the thing. I'm going to go straight here, right? And then we're going to get it. And it's almost always a trap door or a pitfall, or it's just not going to work that way because they don't think about things differently. They don't think about the fundamentals behind what they do. I'll give you a great example. Like in Marino, we've had this conversation before. It's like, what is DevOps? Like, what do you do in DevOps? And everyone's like, oh, well, you shift left, or developers do automation, or, you do this or you do that. And I was like, no, DevOps is just collaboration. It's a fancy word for collaboration because nerds don't think everything is new, right? But it is literally like a bunch of people who are stakeholders in a thing are going to work collaboratively together, not only to build the thing, but also to maintain the thing and iterate on the thing. Right now, do you create tooling to make that easier? Yeah, sure. Do you make tooling to make, the things go faster? Absolutely. But we have all these tools essentially that help us just talk. But so it's like, what is the fundamental behind DevOps? It's communication, collaboration. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. And it is a thing that other industries figured out a long time ago. Construction, medicine, cooking, all these things. They've been able to figure that. They figured this out a long time. They don't have no fancy name, but you know how we are.
Mm-hmm. We have to reinvent everything.
Mm-hmm. Badly, usually.
It seems like a lot of the DevOps tools out there are less about open communication and more about just like posting things up and leaving it for somebody else. Like opening a Jira ticket, putting in a pull request. Looks good to me. Like it doesn't. So many of them don't feel collaborative.
Well, the first thing we did to ruin DevOps was put metrics on it. Like, and not saying that things shouldn't be measured. Like, I think DORA is very valuable stuff. But what's the first thing you do once you start getting metrics?
You work towards the metric.
You gain the metrics. Right? Yeah. And so we have all these things that we do. We got to have tickets. We got to have commits. Well, who has the most? Or we did this? Like, how many lines of code you change? Like, what I'm saying? Like, all these other metrics to measure, right? Because we're so focused on the metrics, we're not focused on the behaviors, right? Like, okay, well, like we have Jira. Okay, what is Jira supposed to do? What's supposed to make it easier for us to collaborate, right? What is Git supposed to do? Git is supposed to make it easier for us to collaborate. What does Slack do? You just, what I'm saying? Like, all these things we have are supposed to make it easier for us to collaborate. Now, is that how we use them? Depends.
Yeah. I see. You can't blame it all on the tool. It's who uses it and how they use it and how they're judged on using it.
There you go. It is how they're incentivized to use it. Right. It is. What is the law that says, you can't convince somebody of something if their salary depends on them not understanding it. I can't remember what the thing is, but I'm sure that is a law or some kind of thing. But it's that similar thing, right? Like, if you're incentivizing me to do metrics, you're going to get metrics, not behaviors. You're going to get metrics. Mm-hmm. And what's real funny too is like, if anybody who ever has kids, right? Kids are going to show you. The kids are going to show you how that's done right away, right?
Oh
He
yeah.
said, I want everything off this floor in 10 minutes. Well, everything's going to go in the bed or in the closet, And
Well, they think creatively though. That's the thing. They don't have all of this. They don't have the distractions that we have to think about. Oh, what if I do this versus that, and how that's going to produce a different outcome. They just
it's they don't have context for what we actually want.
Right.
Because they go off what we said, right? So when you have metrics, right, and just metrics with no content, you're going to get metrics, not behaviors, right? But what are you actually supposed to be doing? What are the metrics a lagging indicator of, right? So if you coach behaviors, right, and then you use those metrics to see if those behaviors are working, if people are exhibiting those behaviors, right, to some level of observability, because it's like, oh, if we don't quantify it, then it can't exist, right? I can't put it in a spreadsheet. I can't put it in a presentation, blah, blah, blah. The MBA has to justify that degree for some reason. But it's like, I think it's interesting. There's, Kat Hicks talks about this a lot. I know Hazel has talked about it. Hazel Week has talked about it a lot. And some other folks who are doing a lot of work, like in the behavioral and psychological aspects of software development, right? When we talk about a behavior is not something that you really can quantify easily, or as in small segments. You've got to look at long trends, right? And you've got to look and then there are also so many other factors that are relevant, right? My metrics are going to look different, especially day to day. I am profoundly ADHD, right? So my productivity, if you measure my productivity hour to hour, it's going to be wild. Like I'm doing nothing all day, right? And then suddenly something hits and I am doing 2 days of work in 4 hours. Like it's just, what is, so how do you measure output? How do you measure what it is? What is the behavior you want to do? Like if you want me to do steady work all day long, like that's not just going to happen. It's like not going to happen. And I'm not going to have that kind of output all the time. It is impossible. It's not how I work. But if you just want like, hey, we just need the work done, cool, the work's going to get done. But go put that on a PowerPoint presentation somewhere where someone is like, well, I don't understand why our employees are, we had to bring them back in the office because they're not productive 24/7. I was like, you know what I'm like in an office? Wait, can we swear on this? I can't remember.
I don't care. That's fine.
What I mean? I'm a fucking menace in the office is what I am. I'm a menace to myself and everybody else around me.
When around the idea of like metrics, a long time ago when I was, the support engineer way back when, it was a game where whoever had the most closed tickets would be praised. So what did I do? Every time someone wanted a printer cartridge changed, oh, there's a ticket.
Oh yeah.
Password reset, that's a ticket. And it just became a thing because a lot of us would just get shit for not having the ability to track our work, right? So then everything just became a ticket. And there's two sides to that whole conversation. If you are looking for the number of hours worked, well, now I've got the receipts. But the time it takes to even develop those receipts, that's just lost time.
Yeah. It is hard to practically account for side work, right? Mm-hmm. Because why? Because then you have to like, oh, well, we need to count for this many minutes of that, this many minutes of that, this many minutes of that. And it's not even that. Like just getting momentum back after context switching, like it takes time, right? And after a while, context switching back and forth, like it's just like I am now, I have reached my, not intellectual. So I've reached my kind of like cognitive capacity, and I need some time to relax. Because I've been doing, I relate it to like, there are people who work well in that kind of pressure. I can't. Like when I was working in a kitchen, when I was working as a professional chef, it was like 8 o'clock on a Saturday and there's like 30 tickets hanging and then like every burner is filled and everything's going on. I am as serene. I am just in hog heaven, such a flow state. Everything's, how are we on this? How are we on that? And then, like, it's great, right? because there's enough going on to occupy like all my needs, and I can do it. And then the other night I'm exhausted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're having me go to type this and to talk to this person, I got to do this, because all these things are different tasks. They're fundamentally different tasks. I have fundamentally different contexts for them all. It is so hard. It is so hard to do.
Yeah, it's that constant context switching. There's a cost to every time you want to change it.
It's a lot. It's a huge cost, actually, especially when you've built a significant amount of momentum, and then all of a sudden someone tells you, "Oh, you got to focus on this now," or you have to focus on this, so you have to basically cut off or stop what you're doing, and then establish that momentum all over again.
I think my internet is wonky. Yeah, am I back now? Can y'all see me?
Yep.
You're
we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. What was the last? What was the last thing you got?
I was just saying.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying that it's the context switching that kills you. There's a cost every time you need to switch from one task to another and reload that context in your brain.
Yeah, it's like, and what's the funny part is we can account for this computing, right? If you restart your database, like how long does it take to build the cache? It is not going to perform well every time. It has to rebuild cache. Like it's going to take a slog down, and it takes a while of doing the thing over and over again. Okay, now cache is back up. Now all the pages are there and everything's great.
Even more fundamentally, there's CPU thrashing when it needs to change too many times to a different thread, usually because of memory pressures. But if you get into a thrashing thing, there's the cost of switching every time is more than the actual compute that it's doing. And I just that speaks to me as a human. Like if you give me 20 tasks to do at the same time, I'm going to do none of them well, and it's going to take me longer. But if you put them in a serial fashion where I can kind of like focus on one thing at a time, you got a better chance of actually getting work out of me.
I agree. I mean,
yeah, hard agree. I think too, we, and then you go the opposite side. It's like, well, we're going to remove all distractions from you. We're just going to keep you focused on this thing until it's done. I'm like, that's not how it works either, right? But so like, how do you measure that? How do you quantify? How do you fine tune that behavior? Not even, because you can't do it for an entire org, because we're all different, right? And that's where like that's where not management but leadership comes in, right? Because you have to figure out what each of your people needs, right? And figure out what these things look like for them,
right?
And then and then implement that.
There's a phrase I've heard a few times, which is measure outcomes, not outputs. Is like, I think kind of gets to what you're saying a little bit. I think what's interesting is when you think about the way that we interact with AI and LLMs right now, we don't know what they're doing on the inside. We have no clue how the neural networks are built, how they're interacting with each other.
We accept so much bullshit from them. We accept mostly bullshit from them. We're like, oh yeah, this is great because I did this and I got this out. Yeah, it's like 95% wrong, but it was really cool. And I'm like, well, what if we just did that for development teams? You know what I'm saying? Like let them cook.
Yeah. But I'm trying to equate that, like all we have from LLMs is output. That's all we have. And then the outcome's up to us. So I guess we have to measure AI based on outputs and not outcomes. I'm not sure.
I think the problem is we are exactly measuring AI on outputs, because if we measure on outcomes, no one would use it. And that's for real.
Yeah. For real. Yeah. Because the outcome is bad.
Never good.
So my neighbors next door, one of them works in health insurance of some kind, and the other one is a nurse. And I saw them walking their dog yesterday, and without me bringing it up at all, they started complaining about how AI is infesting all of their apps and stuff that they work on on a day-to-day basis. The one guy, his
nobody asked for
company
it.
developed their own internal AI thing that they named after the company, because that is the thing to do right now. And he's like, it pops up and it has no idea and gives me wrong answers, but I'm told that I have to use it. And and the nurse said some of her systems now have AI popping up to help her with her patients. And she's like, sometimes it's useful. Most of the time, it's just wrong or gets in the way. Both of those things are scary. Like someone who's working on my insurance or someone who is treating me as a patient, like I'd like the outcome to be good.
Well, I'd like the outcome to be derived from an actual human who deeply thinks about the conditions, we just lost Tim.
I think we
Come
did.
back, Tim. Tim's
come
having
back.
some internet issues. While we wait for Tim, Ned, what have you been seeing lately in the AI space? I'm just curious. Like I've been seeing a lot of noise. I've also seen, the fact that we're kind of in this little mini bubble that's almost about to pop.
I think, well, my point of bringing up the couple who lives next to me and the fact that they, out of nothing, that's not like I was talking about AI and they jumped in with their stories. It just shows you how much it's permeated everything. And I think it's hard for me to say how much that speaks to what kind of bubble we're in. The fact that most people don't like it is probably not a positive sentiment.
Yeah, I think it becomes more of an interference than it is something that's helpful to a lot of people, right?
I think so. Follow me on this train of thought. I was talking to Kyler yesterday about how, and this, I'm sure this has happened to you as a technology person. Someone will call you and ask you to come over because they're struggling with some technology thing, and you'll walk over and you'll go bloop, 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 and it'll just work the first time. And they'll be like, that's what I was doing, and it refused to work. And you kind of feel like you have this magic quantum interference field surrounding you, right? That all I have to do is walk over and, electronics just detect that I'm a technology savvy person and bend to my will. But I think what's actually happening is something much more subtle, which is being technology natives. We understand how developers and product designers think intuitively. And so we make assumptions when we walk up to a terminal or a UI or even just a piece of hardware. We intuitively know where they're going to put the power button, where they're going to put, the button for you to click. And people who are not as savvy or don't have that background just don't make those same intuitive assumptions. And I think AI and the way it's being blown out and implemented to people is a widespread occurrence of this exact phenomenon, where you have people who are really into AI. They know how it works, or as much as anyone does. And they have built interfaces based off of that knowledge. But when it's put in front of a non-technical person, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to interact with it, and it's just an annoyance to them. Somebody has to fix that. And somebody needs to be the Apple of AI, and it's not going to be Apple for obvious reasons.
What is so funny about is Apple has been getting from, during, for some analysts just raked over the coals because they have not been at the forefront of the AI push for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think they're better off for not having, for trying it and been like, actually, this is a lot harder than we thought. And we don't necessarily want to put out slop. No, they're not slop free. But the level of investment that you have from them as putting it in everything and making the center and forefront of everything is not what you see out of Apple's not GitHub. Yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing that's just getting me right now is we're pushing this thing in front of everybody and telling them it's great. And all I can think is, does anybody remember 3D TVs?
Oh gosh. But here's the thing though. 3D TVs were still restricted to TVs. This
Yes.
is in everything. It is nefarious. It is the U2 album of features in everything. Like, we didn't ask for this. We don't want it. And by and large, it doesn't make it better. And not in the ways it's being put. And this is, it's really interesting. Like, I work with a lot of companies who want to do, hey, we want to use GenAI for this and GenAI for that, right? And most of them just know they want to use it, don't know how it's relevant, don't know what product to put it in, don't even know what it's good at. You know, and so like a couple of them are like, hey, we're going to use it to help identify this thing that we're doing manually, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it's an easy to define thing. We're looking at this manual, we're pulling out these things. We just want to do it faster. Great. That is a great use case for AI, machine learning in general, right? You know, we're going to use GenAI to take this output and formulate, you know, some response that's nice and human readable. Okay, that's fine and great, right? But what you don't want, like, people are trying to use GenAI. It's like, hey, we're going to use it to do math and charts and all this other kind of stuff like that, and I'm like, that's not what large language models are good at. But you know, it's like, if you want to use a large language model to take your question and put it into a SQL query and then run that against something that's really good at data analytics and then spit you back the answer thing, that's fine. But they're trying to use the LLM for the entire process, right? And the LLMs are good at a few things. They're real good at guessing. They're real good at guessing words. That's it. That's all they do. They're going to guess words. And everyone, all the sloppers out there get so butthurt when I'm like, well, they do this and this. No, they're just token guessing algorithms. That's all. They're really fast token guessing algorithms that are very, very biased toward telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah. Yesterday I finished writing scripts for the next course I'm doing for Pluralsight, and I write them all in Markdown, and I wanted to see if ChatGPT could just look at it, tell me how many words were in each section, and, you know, based off of this, I do like 130 words a minute talking. What does that translate to in terms of how long each section is? And the math was so wrong. Like, not even close. 20, 40, 50% off. So I said, write me a Python program that could do the same exact thing. Program worked great. Because it's good at writing words, not doing math.
But here's the other thing too. I'm good at writing Python. I don't need, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I didn't need it to write it in Python, but it was faster than I could have written that program. Not by a lot, but by enough that it was like, I told it to go do it, and then I went and did something else for a little bit. And when I came back, it was like, oh, I have this easy script that can now count words and tell me things.
So what I would have, so what works probably for me is like, you know, and this is probably the GitHub method of doing it. It's like in my comments, like, you know, for the product, this is my Python script that does this, right? So now in my LLM, go find me the script that does this. Bam. Okay, cool. Right. Essentially, that's what I do, and that's a great way to do it on your own repo. But it's, you know, having it, like, if you didn't know Python and have me write me a Python script that does this, right? And all you know is that the code runs and generates an output. Do you know it's right?
Right.
Do you know if it's secure? Do you know if it's resilient? You know, and so this is the thing that people get when they talk about, well, you can use AI to generate to help you write products and stuff like that. Like, no, you actually cannot. You cannot. You can help it prove a concept, right? Maybe, but it will not make a product because LLMs don't know how to make anything run good.
They definitely don't have a spark of creativity. And I think some people miss that fact. Like, all it does is take its corpus of knowledge and then create something, not even create's the wrong word, synthesize something based off of that pool of knowledge. It's a big pool, but it's still just creating derivative works. It's never going to create something new and novel, which is probably good.
The thing that happens, and I say this, LLMs possess neither knowledge nor experience. And if you're looking for that from an LLM, you're going to get something that looks. It's going to be like asking the person who just can't ever be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
We
all know that person, right? Yeah, we know that person, right? And they're going to say something that's going to be probably very convincing, and you're going to go with it. Why? Because but are they right? I don't know, but I believe them.
Mm-hmm. They said it with confidence,
and that's what you get an LLM. And it can be right about some things. That's great. They can be, but not going to be right about everything. But the problem that we have is that as an industry, we are so willing to accept them being wrong at an error rate that we would never accept out of a person.
Yeah, if a person lied to me like an LLM does, we would not be friends for very long.
Would they be employed outside political office?
They would get promoted inside any political office.
But and like this is not here to bash the sloppers, but yeah, if you're a slopper, you should feel bad.
I think it's important that we find the sharp edges of AI and respect those, and then use the tools that we have appropriately. And so when people like complain that maybe I'm bashing on AI, it's not that. It's that I need to know where the limits are, and I need other people to understand those limitations so we can use it right.
I think AI is great for a lot of things, right? AI as a whole, right?
Yeah.
What people are referring to now as GenAI and LLM specifically as an AI, I do not think most of the use cases are good. Good, not even from like, an ethical standpoint, but they're just not practical, right? There are a lot of traditional machine learning things that have been around for a while that AI ML has been around for a while that you could be using that are far more effective, cheaper, and reliable than using LLMs for stuff like that. And people just now finding out because ChatGPT makes it seem real whiz bang fast. But it's never as easy as I think it is, right? And I do think it's great. Like the use case I talk about the best, I love it. It's like using an LLM to create alt text for something. Great, perfect. It's a great use case. It's descriptive. It'll pick up things that probably I don't pick up, but even if I do, I can read it and say, yes, that's accurate. Go paste it, right? Mm-hmm. Perfect thing. Summarizing some things is great. It's not as good. Not always great, not always accurate, but still like, okay, yeah, summarize this for me. Give me some bullet points. For me as the reader, as someone who I reads it needs to like, it's not a bad idea, right? Now, where it comes off the rails is like the longer the thing you summarize is, the more likely it's going to be wrong and start making shit up. And that goes without fail. I mean, every time. The longer it is, the more it's going to make up stuff. The longer the output is, the more it's going to make stuff up and get it wrong, confidently wrong.
So how do we fix that? Like, what are some ways that we could probably still speed up our workflows to a degree, but also make sure that whatever we're speeding up is also accurate, precise, exact output that we expect?
All right, so let's go back to that. Why do we need to speed up our workloads?
Not necessarily. Well, okay. I mean, I have thoughts about maybe freeing up time to do other things like game, while behind the scenes AI is doing my work for me. But I'm not in full support of speeding up my workflows in the name of capitalism, if you will.
Well, it's like here's the thing. Like, what is our job mostly? Our job is mostly thinking.
Mm-hmm.
We're knowledge workers, right? We don't work on the line. We don't work in the construction. Even for company, we're still knowledge workers, by and large. So our job is mostly thinking. So it goes back to what is our output? What are we measuring here? What are we actually doing? What is our measurable output? So if the AI is speeding up the speed at which I write, how bad are you at writing that you can be replaced with AI?
That's true.
If you are specifically being chosen for the way you write, for your voice, or how you communicate, you cannot replace that with an AI and still make yourself marketable. Right.
Yeah.
When I write, right, and it is very clear that I have not put this through an LLM. Right. I have a very distinctive voice. I have a distinctive writing style. LLM's far too sanitary, right? For anything that I write, right? And I'm okay with it. I like it. I prefer that because I want people's voices to come out. I want to know, when someone writes, like I'll give a great example. Like Kat writes a lot, prolific writers, and I know Kat's writing. I can read something without reading it and know that it's hers, right? And so people like that, like even if they use AI to assist in the writing, just like that, it is still in their voice. But you have to be a good writer with a voice already to be able to use it to assist you to do that, right? And so there's a nuance there, right? It's like, you don't give the new person a jackhammer when they're first day of construction. You know what I mean? Right. Like you don't want to start a person out driving with a Ferrari or a monster truck or something like that, right? The ability to fail is great, and the damage you cause is great, right? So you need to so when people start off reliant on these tools, they never gain knowledge. They never gain the ability to actually do it, right? And to bring this back to jiu-jitsu, right? You can't learn jiu-jitsu from AI. You can't. AI can't even simulate jiu-jitsu, right? Because it doesn't understand. It can look at all the videos in the world of jiu-jitsu it wants to. It does not understand what the pressure is. It does not understand what the body mechanics are, because you have to have a body and do jiu-jitsu in order to really understand it, right? It will, and I've seen people prompt blah, blah, blah. You can say like, that's fake. You can already see it. I can see this. Like that thing would never happen. Like, and it can't teach you how to do it. You actually have to go in there through the process of learning, the process of feeling when something hurts, how to do right. What does the balance feel like? What does it feel like for your own body versus when someone else teaches, like, in order to learn jiu-jitsu? No AI can teach you that. You actually have to go through and do it to learn it, right? AI can't teach you how to cook, right? See some of these recipes, whatever, because AI doesn't have a sense of smell. Or AI doesn't have a sense of taste. AI can't see, And so, like, if you can, it will teach you. Anyone can follow a recipe, but following a recipe is way different than knowing how to cook. Right? Yep. And so I know how to cook, and you and I can go with somebody who follows recipe and can cook. We can follow the same thing. Mine's going to taste way better than yours does every time. Right.
On that note,
Marino's been there. Marino's seen me cook just off the cuff.
That's what I was about to say. Like, Ned, you definitely have to try out Tim's cooking.
I would love to.
But these are things you have to learn. You have to progress. You have to build up skill through experience and knowledge to do this thing, right? And that's the problem that I have with a lot of the ways people are using AI, is they're using it to shortcut learning. And the same, I'm efficient, or I know it, but I'm just going to do this thing. I was like, no, but you've actually stopped. And there have already been enough studies to show the cognitive decline of people who are reliant on using GenAI for their stuff. It makes you dumber, quantifiably dumber, right? Because you're reliant on it to think for you. You're reliant on it to learn for you. Right. And what's the thing they tell you, like, how does cognitive decline happen in adults? It's when they stop thinking. It's when they stop learning. It's when they stop, gaining new interests and skills and stuff like that. Right. That's never good for anybody. That's stagnation. And so watching people who I think are brilliant now come back and lie, and everything, like, ask a question. It's the output is clearly AI. And I'm like, oh God. like we as not just knowledge workers in the industry, but we as humanity, I think, are better than that, right? AI is shortcutting, and not in a good way, shortcutting our ability to make things. To make things. I'm going to go with to synthesize things, right? Without ever respecting the process. And the process is what makes us grow. The process is what makes us better. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't. How do you learn to run a marathon, right? You got to train. You have to build these things up, right? How do you get a black belt in Jiu Jitsu? You got to train. How do you get good at anything, right? You got to do it. Look, I wish a clinker would. I absolutely could, come on. I fear no robot. But yeah, so we do ourselves a disservice a lot of the ways using AI. Like I said, it's a great assistant. And that's all it can ever really be, or also really should be, if you do not want to diminish yourself.
Well, and that's just it, right? I used to use a lot of Google for searching, and ChatGPT, as an example, has replaced that for me. It'll do a better job of sourcing the right information that I need to maybe put together an architecture or piece together an integration, if you will. But the thing is, you're still providing it a significant amount of context. Like, I want it to do this, and here are all the parameters I need you to follow and think about. That's the context that you're adding. And as long as you as a knowledge worker don't stop doing that, you force yourself to think a little bit deeply, because you'll get something that is maybe half of what you expected. Then you have to go back and iterate all over again and be much more specific and clear about what you're really looking for. Like, I mean, if you say, give me a service mesh configuration, it's just going to go find something. But if you be a little bit more intentional about what you're looking for, that's how it becomes the assistant. That's how I'm looking at it, right? I don't want to look at it at Ned's like, he's bringing up service mesh.
No, I feel like we can tie this all the way back to DevOps now, because DevOps was about collaboration, which requires good communication. And as much as we need to be able to communicate well with each other, if we want AI to do something effectively, we have to communicate our intention to it. And for me, the process of writing is the process of thinking. As I write, I have to think through what I want to say and how I want to say it. And whether I'm doing that for a blog post or I'm trying to explain something to AI or another person, that forces me to think and process through stuff. And I become better, or I usually learn things about the topic just by going through that thought process. That, for me, is where the value is, forcing me to think in detail when I'm coming up with a request or a prompt for AI. There's probably more value in writing that prompt than the output I get back.
I think it's interesting. We're talking about prompts, and I'm looking at, someone's talking about, asking AI to give you like a recipe, like a book. And again, I point to the fact, the thing is, like, the output is not knowledge, right? And I remember the discussion that a lot of people had before. It's like, well, how is this different than using Stack Overflow, et cetera, et cetera? And the thing is, it's like, what would you always tell people, juniors, to juniors? I was like, don't just copy and paste from Stack Overflow, right? Use that as an example for you to figure out what it is you need to do, right? Examine that, learn from it, and then write the code, right? And that's not what people are doing. So it's like, all right, because how do you make a cookie? Like, do you just follow a recipe to make a cookie? If you follow a recipe, you will make a cookie, right? That's not the same as learning how to make a cookie, right? Now, right. I know how to make a cookie, right? Not because I read a Nestle Toll House recipe, right? But because I've made enough cookies to know that I want more butter. I like a little less salt. Sometimes I like a little more salt, depending on what type of chocolate is it. All these other things, because I can put out cookies of various types, not just I can replicate a Nestle Toll House cookie, right? It's a difference between output and outcome. And I think that's what it is. Like, it's like, yeah, no, do I get the same cookie every time, right? Or do I learn how the fundamentals on a cookie? It's interesting because the person also says data is knowledge. No. Knowledge helps data helps inform knowledge, but knowledge first and foremost, is experience data? Maybe. But is it, it's not something that you're going to be able to ask and get, right? And by the way, yeah, like my mystery cookies are good as hell. So I mean, like, again, whoever this person is, I don't have to vouch for my cooking, bro. Other people can do that for me. There have been my name has been on menus. So, and this was long before AI ever existed as a thing. I just knew how to cook.
I think that's the important part, right? Knowing how to cook versus follow. It's the same thing as like knowing how to code, how to develop an application versus just going to a set of tutorials and copying and pasting and cobbling together a solution that does the thing, but doesn't do the full or arrive at that full outcome, if you will.
Yeah.
And when you're actually cooking and you know how to cook, it's because things are just like your second nature, if you will. It's just in memory. It's something that you naturally know. Whereas if you're just following a recipe for the first time, you kind of don't know. You actually don't know if you're making the cookie you expect it to be, right? You're making something and per a set of instructions. And I think every robot out there could probably follow instructions to make your cookie, but is it going to taste good? The robot won't know.
I would say,
go ahead.
When it comes to recipes, there's a built-in set of assumptions that the recipe writer is making about the person who's going to then actually execute on that recipe. And if you're a seasoned cook, or even just a moderately good one, I would put myself in that category. I know what those assumptions are, and I can tweak them because I understand those assumptions in the recipe. And so, and like you were saying, I might say this needs a little more butter, or I know what kind of sheet pan I'm using, and that changes how the cookie's going to bake. So I might need to make adjustments to the recipe because I've got these shiny, thin sheet pans instead of the thicker ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of thing that's just something I know from experience. I think data isn't knowledge, but data plus experience can create knowledge.
Yeah. Because you have context, you've got experience, you've got data. Like, all these things matter. I brought this up before. It's like, who here has ever learned a recipe, a specific thing to make from like your grandmother or your aunt or something like that? And they don't like, yeah, you put in some of this, when it looks right, when it tastes like, when it's, when it sounds right in the pot, like, things like that. Like, you don't know what that is. Remember directions before GPS?
Oh yeah. Maps.
Turn left at the third gas station and then a right at Mark's old house.
Yeah. And so these were things people learned, these things. And, the internet was a way to increase accessibility to various types of knowledge, for sure. Right. The potential for it to be the new library at Alexandria was great. Right. You got to see what other people had, and you got to add to your learnings and experiences like that, and new things to try, but they were for you to experience. And if you couldn't experience, you could at least see other people's experiences, right? Again, the problem with LLM is LLM has no experience. It has no knowledge. And so like, you're not learning anything from it. Thank you, Izzy. But so like, yeah, and it is the opportunity for us to like, we could be using it so much better by taking what it says. Like, all right, let me see let me examine, let me dig into this. It says this, but why does it work that way? And then, what I'm saying? Like, if you're using it like kind of, Plato, is it Aristotle, that like the prompting, like philosophical prompting, Like,
like the
huh,
Socratic
like
method.
Socratic method. Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Like instead of me prompting it, I want it to prompt me.
Mhm.
I think that's probably a better way for us because in the end, we should be thinking. We should be curious. We should be trying to be able to learn to do these things ourselves and relying less on these tools to do it for us.
Funny you mentioned that because that's become my prompt style lately. Is it's a reversed prompt where I give it a general idea and then tell it to ask me questions for clarification. And it will keep asking me questions merrily until I tell it to stop. And each new set of questions forces me to think harder about it. And I think that sort of reverse prompt, that might be the best way to go to get results that are actually useful and force me to think harder about what I'm asking.
You know, Cassidy Williams wrote an app like that. I'm trying to remember, I think she open sourced it. But yeah, it just prompts you on like drummer writing and prompts you on these things like that. Like that is the way it should be something that makes us think and not something that thinks for us. And I think if we used it more like that, we would find our work accelerated because we think better, we think faster, we think outside the normal boxes we have done, right? And as much as I would like us to just use LSD all the time to be able to do that, it's real hard to get some employers to feel like that's a valuable excursion during the workday. So like we have to use LLMs and stuff, and they hallucinate enough for us.
Yep. You want to bring it in for a landing, Marino?
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, I've got to take off soon to go pick up my kiddos, so I feel like
cookies now.
No, he loves croissants actually, but maybe I'll get him a cookie. We'll see. He probably might not like that, and he'll get mad at me and ask me for croissants. But anyways, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like we have to have an extended discussion about this and bring Kat into the fold. Maybe get a little bit of Hazel in here too, and have a much more deeper conversation about the ethics behind the usage of AI as well, because there's just a lot going on. This stuff is moving so fast, and I think we forget about the etiquette and the ethics behind it all. So anyways, Tim?
Yeah, I would love that. Definitely we should do that and make it longer. Yeah, we can, record it, cut it up, put the highlights in there. And to be sure, I don't have all the answers. I ask a lot of questions. I don't have it, and I'm okay with that. I love to hear other people's experiences. I love to be wrong because then I get to learn, right? But at the same time, right, there's already too much evidence out there for us to just say blindly, this is a good thing, and we're doing it the right way. So it is important for us as people with these experiences to look at what's the best way we could be doing this.
I agree.
And also, Murray, when am I going to get you? When are you going to come start training?
I have no idea, but I just want to say thank you again for coming and hanging with us, Tim. I appreciate it. And to everyone who's watching, I hope you all have a great Friday and a great weekend, and we will see you soon. And I don't know when we're going to do another episode because there's just a lot of vacation and, trying to wrap up the summer, but we will see you all soon. So take care, everyone.